Ladies and gentlemen, my guest this week.
Joining me now on the line now, American indie star who is currently on tour in Ireland. She'll be wrestling this weekend for Pro Wrestling Ulster and Over the Top Wrestling. From Atlanta, Georgia, USA, Harlow O'Hara. Harlow, thanks for joining us here on The Kickout.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. I'm happy to be on with you guys.
You're more than welcome. It's a pleasure to have you on. So first of all, let's talk about what first influenced you to be a pro wrestler. Like what first steps did you take, or when did you first realize, I want to try my hands at pro wrestling?
Well, I get asked that quite a bit, and I have, I guess my story isn't exactly your normal story that you usually hear.
Mm-hmm.
The first moment that I decided I want to wrestle, I was actually at an indie promotion. It was my first indie promotion that I had ever gone to, and just something kind of sparked in me. I told myself I believed in myself enough that I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, I had not really grown up to watch wrestling. My family wasn't a wrestling family, which I think I love hearing, my peers being able to say, I used to watch, like WCW with my dad and my grandpa, but that just wasn't my family. I remember being young and flipping through the TV and, seeing China and pausing and being like mesmerized by what wrestling was, but it was never like a consistent thing in my life.
See what you mean?
So I actually really what made me want to do it was I needed something to just some things I was going through in my life. So when I saw it, firsthand in the indie form and not just WWE, I was like, this could be it for me. This could be what I've been waiting for. So I needed to talk to some friends. They hooked me up with my trainer, and I never looked back.
Awesome stuff. That's awesome stuff. That's pretty cool. So obviously, you said yourself you grew up in a non-wrestling family, but you watched like the likes of WCW and WWE. As a fan growing up, and even right now, who are your favorite wrestlers?
Yeah, so it's funny. Like most of my influences and people that I really like are actually current because I didn't watch too much growing up. So when it comes to old school, I really loved watching Lita and Trish Stratus, of course, and Beth Phoenix, because I just feel like I have a little bit of connection with Beth Phoenix because we had the same trainer.
Okay.
And I can see that in her like work. Like I can trained by who trained me.
Mm-hmm.
She had multiple trainers, but I can definitely see the influence from him. And like I said, I only really got back to wrestling in the past 2 years before I decided that I wanted to do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
So really, like, just all the women right now are just so inspiring, like Charlotte, and Sasha Banks, and
Absolutely.
Natalya. I love Natalya. Just anybody right now is really putting in work. Becky Lynch was actually, I think, one of my first people that I started to get mesmerized by a little bit.
Absolutely.
And then of course I love, Eddie Guerrero and all those old school stars. They all paved paths for different people and influenced different people. So I think everybody really has a place. I don't really watch people and go, oh, I like your style compared to someone else's, because I just appreciate it all.
I see what you mean.
And I try to be pretty versatile in my wrestling as well. I don't want to be just labeled as a certain style. I want to be able to get in the ring and do anything with anybody.
That makes sense. But you have all the people to look to inspire to for that. Like you mentioned, so many wrestlers there that have all different styles. So it's pretty cool. You look at them all like to a certain point. But let's talk about the character yourself, Harlow O'Hara. How would you describe her, and what wrestlers or even people, if any, describe parts of the character?
That's so funny. I get asked that also, and Harlow is an amplified version of myself.
Okay.
I've had, like I said, when I originally started wrestling, I needed to, I was just trying to get some confidence back and some self-love back for myself. So when I kind of thought about who I wanted to be in the ring, it was more of like, who do I want to be in real life, but I don't really know if I can be on a regular basis. So that's kind of what Harlow is. So really, like, I guess it sounds kind of weird, but my biggest influence is myself, I guess.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
Around and when I sit around and I'm like, if I could, and in this situation, what would Harlow, what would I want to do, but I can't do in this situation? That's kind of what Harlow is. And my little tagline that I've been using recently is Hex Appeal. And I kind of like that because that's kind of what Harlow is when she gets in the ring. Is, a hex is like a spell, so kind of like putting a spell on everybody. Like, they don't want to look away from me, they want to see what I'm going to do next.
Love
and
it.
that's what I'm going for.
That's cool. That's actually a really cool way of looking at it. Like, so for great words too there. I have to ask you one thing though. The name O'Hara, is there a touch of Irish coming from there, or is it just a coincidence?
Yeah. So going back to originally why I started wrestling, to make a long story a little bit shorter, when I was really young, I went to Ireland.
Okay.
And I fell in love and I got married.
Oh, no way.
And I actually, I moved to Ireland and I lived in Dublin for some time.
Okay.
And so when that chapter of my life deteriorated a little bit and I had to come back to America, moved back to Atlanta, which is where I was born and raised. I went through, your what you would feel after losing a part of your life, because I genuinely huge spot in my heart and my life for Ireland. So that's why I'm, really honored. This is actually my first international dates that I've ever done, and to be able for it to be in Ireland, it's really full circle for me. So when I was coming up with like the last name, I just kind of wanted to have a little, nod to what made me, like, honestly, if my experiences in Ireland didn't happen, I don't know if I would have went down the path where I felt like I needed wrestling. My life felt like it was kind of spiraling out of control, and I didn't really feel confident or like I had control of my life again until I stepped in a ring. And that's why, I've never looked back from that. And so the O'Hara is like a little bit of a nod to Ireland. And then also I was born and raised in Atlanta, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with the film Gone with the Wind.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, so the main character is Scarlett O'Hara.
Oh, yeah,
so
of
O'Hara
course.
is her last name, and she's an Atlanta girl, born and raised in the South. So I thought that the last name would be fitting for, it's a little bit of Atlanta and a little bit of Ireland.
That's an awesome story right there to explain the name. That's pretty cool. So as you mentioned, you were trained by WWE Hall of Famer Robert Gibson from the Rock and Roll Express. Now, how much of an influence has he been for your wrestling career in particular?
He has been my entire, it's really hard to put into words. I just have so much love for him. I still train with him weekly, actually, and he's all of my influence. Obviously the more I go out on my own a little bit, and now that I'm wrestling international and other things, I'm picking up different things from different people and learning, and you never stop learning. But my foundation is completely Robert, and I have, because of Robert and who he is, I get the honor of being around Ricky Morton sometimes. And then, Robert has his, I have to shout out the school that I went to. It's All Pro Championship Wrestling, APCW, in Douglasville, Georgia. And that's the first ring I ever took a bump in, the first ropes I've ever hit were there. And Robert, having his school in that area, that's his, he's trained for everybody all over, but this is his first school. Okay. And being in the area that we're in, we get the honor of having people like Diamond Dallas Page and Scott Hall. They randomly pop into the school. They randomly pop in to our shows, because we still, Robert runs a monthly show called APCW. And so my influence is huge from him, and I will always, no matter what, wrestling is obviously different now than it was back then, but I can definitely say that I am confident in my foundation and my basics and psychology and all of those things that are so important. It's all there because of Robert. So he's been a huge influence, and I love tag team matches because of him, because I just know I have that insight from him and Ricky as well.
That makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. Cool.
Yes.
So, of course, as you mentioned, this is your first tour, an international tour here in Ireland, where you'll be wrestling for PWU in Belfast and, of course, OTT here in Dublin. From what you can see, or from what you've heard, what do you make of the pro wrestling scene here in Ireland, from what you've heard, and how would you compare it to certainly your local circuits in the Georgia State area in America?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just have to say I'm so excited about this. I've heard nothing but amazing things about the Irish wrestling scene.
Mm-hmm.
Really impressed by what I've heard. It's really hard hitting, and I love that everybody seems so passionate in Ireland. Something that I can say that I think that they are very lucky is that Ireland is a very small country.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's so cool to see that every worker, every wrestler, or someone that's involved in the scene, it's almost like whether they're in Dublin or up in Northern Ireland in Belfast, or if they're in Cork, it's just kind of like everybody knows each other and really supports each other and leans on each other.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really cool. And I think from my experience, like in the southeastern part of the United States, everybody is the same. We all support each other and lean on each other, but it's because the U.S. is so big. The group of people that are in the Southeast might not. We might know people from, say, like California or the West Coast, but the I guess like brother and sisterhood between the two aren't as tight because the U.S. is so large.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that it wouldn't be, but it takes a lot longer for you to get to know those people or work with those people because they're on the other side of the U.S., which is like a 30-hour drive.
Makes sense, yeah.
So I think the Irish scene, they're just, I can describe it as like hardworking and teamwork. Is something that just from like observing everything online, I haven't met anybody yet, but I'm really excited to meet everybody, and just everybody's been so welcoming. Lauren LaRue, she's been really welcoming, and we are excited to have a match together, and Debbie Keitel, just everybody has been so welcoming and excited to meet me, and I'm excited to meet them, and that's all. I just think everybody works really hard.
Absolutely.
And and the shows that they put on, the matches that I've watched footage on everybody that I'm going to be working with. You can just tell like the passion, and that's how I can describe it. It's just very passionate. Absolutely.
Well, I can tell you from watching them, you'll definitely have a good match with the girls coming up. Both Lauren in Pro Wrestling Ulster, and then Martina, Debbie, and Amy over in OTT. So I can generally tell you're going to be in for a good match there.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So
I can agree.
Yeah. So women's wrestling, as we can both agree, are probably at its greatest heights at the moment. Like with so many great wrestlers, matches, and promoters coming through, giving men a run for their money, like big time. What I want to ask you though is how important is women's wrestling, or certainly the way it is now, to you?
I don't even know how to put into words. Like something that is like. So something that I feel so passionate about. I don't even know how to put it into words, like what it means to me, to be honest. It's everything to me, and I just want to see it continuing to grow. I want the wrestling business and industry to be protected and to grow in general. But when it comes to that women's, platform, I just, all I want to see is a sisterhood and support from everybody. And just, if we keep doing what we're doing now, it's going to be huge. And I just want to be a part of that. Even if I'm a small part, I just want to be a part of that so badly. Even if it's just one match at one show, if it inspires another female to become a wrestler, or if it inspires my fellow workers to do something else or something different to elevate themselves, that's I just want to be a part of it in some way, because I know I'm still very, at the beginnings of my careers. And I can tell you, since I've started just looking at not only just women in WWE, but women in the indie circuit, it's just so inspiring. And I am really excited to see what is going to happen if everybody keeps at the pace that they're doing and keeps putting in that work. Like, I just want to make sure it's protected and it grows and it flourishes. And that's, because it's my dream.
Absolutely.
And I want to make sure it's protected.
Absolutely.
And I'm so ecstatic just to see, just in this past year, the past 12 months, like 12 months ago versus now, like where it's at. It's just amazing.
Yeah, like imagine the difference from like where we were last year to this year. It can be startling, especially for a wrestler, I imagine. So in the time you have wrestled, who are your favorite wrestlers to be in the ring with? So like in America, for example?
Yeah. So I would have to say all the girls that I've come up with. I've wrestled a lot of the same women in the southeastern region. Like I mentioned, this is like my first big step outside of my normal comfort zone in the U.S. So just all the girls that have been there since I started training are really just my favorites. I have America Strong. She's really sweet, and I've had really good matches with her. Stormy Lee, Brooklyn Creed, Katie Ono. There's so many more. And there's so many more women in Georgia that I haven't got to work with, let's say, in the ring, but I've had chances to train with them or grow with them and learn from them, like Aja Pereira and Tragedy Ann, and there's just Kiera Hogan. There's just so many women that are in the Southeast that have so much passion. So even if I actually haven't been able to wrestle them in a match, just being able to feed off their energy and their passion has been really important to me. So, and there's a lot of hard workers for sure from Atlanta.
That's pretty cool.
And the surrounding area.
So that's pretty cool.
And of course there are women that I want to wrestle.
Of course.
So, and hopefully I'll get there.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you will, as I said. So obviously, so you've obviously wrestled a lot of your wrestlers from your local scene. But in your wrestling career, so far, what would you consider the highlights of your wrestling career so far?
So far, I would say this, even though it hasn't technically happened yet. It's this upcoming weekend. I have Pro Wrestling Ulster on Friday at Culture Night, and then I have OTT on Sunday. This whole experience is the fact that I've even been booked and I've been given this opportunity. I'm so grateful, and I'm going to make the best of it. I just want to learn, and I want to soak it all in while I'm here. So this moment right now, like talking on the phone with you and just everything I'm going to learn this weekend, this is the highlight so far. But when it comes to things that I have done, I've worked closely with Luke Gallows and Joey Mercury.
Cool.
They had a promotion in Georgia because Luke also lives in Georgia.
Okay.
And being able to work on his promotions and like getting to the shows early and being able to be critiqued by Luke Gallows or Joey Mercury, or I've helped out at shows with Cody Rhodes before, so be given all those opportunities to learn and experience the culture inside the business has been great. And of course I have to say, this past WrestleMania weekend, I was able to go to Hall of Fame to see Robert and Ricky be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And even though that had nothing to do with me being inside the ring, just that experience in itself was worth so much, to be able to not only hear what they had to say. Everything that's televised is a lot shorter than the actual ceremony, and just hear like what Diamond Dallas Page had to say in his speech, and just like it really like hit home with me. And then Beth Phoenix, to hear her speech, and all those little moments were incredibly inspiring. And then to see Robert to be up there like on stage was just, it kind of shows you the bigger picture, that if you really have passion and you just put that work and you just drive yourself to work so hard, big things can happen for you if you believe in it. And was something that I learned that weekend.
It's pretty cool. As I said, like it's pretty cool how you see, like, for example, the highlights of Robert going to the Hall of Fame, because that sort of thing, like him as a trainer would inspire you. So that's pretty cool. So obviously, again for yourself, like, do you have any short-term or long-term goals you still like to accomplish in your professional wrestling career?
Yeah. So right now I'm currently getting to one. I really wanted to wrestle internationally in my first, few years of wrestling, and I'm actually doing it in less time than I thought it was going to. So this is one goal, and like I said, it's just such an honor for it to be in Ireland. It hits home with me, and so that is a short-term goal that I had. So I'm currently achieving that, and I would love to be. Short-term wise, in the next few years, year or two, I would love to be a part of an all-women's promotion, like be on a roster for either Shine or Shimmer, just anything that's all female. Because once again, going back to the whole like female uprising right now in the wrestling industry, I just want to be a part of anything that has to do with that. Eventually, just start to be able to continue wrestling, and maybe hopefully come back to Ireland and be able to go to other countries. And those are short-term goals that I want to start achieving in the next few years. And then long-term, I just, it's probably cliche, but of course everybody would love to have a go with WWE. So if anything like that were to happen, that would be a long-term goal. But to be honest, if I can just make a living from this and be wrestling every single weekend and be a good influence to younger wrestlers and just live this dream, and it can pay my bills and I can just do this, and that's it. That's my main concern, and be able to be a part of other promotions and be all over. That's really what I want.
That's pretty cool. So you you definitely have a lot of goals set out, like whether it's wrestling for all women promotions, as you mentioned, such as Shimmer, to even eventually going for WWE. So that's pretty awesome. So finally, I must ask you, like we usually ask a random question, usually every time we have an interview here. And since, like as you said, one of your trainers is Robert Gibson, who's obviously one half of arguably one of the greatest tag teams of all time, we have to ask you, if you yourself were to form a tag team with any female wrestler from any era, from any wrestler living or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh gosh, that's such a hard question to answer.
It's usually. I'll tell you what. You can form a faction. Let's say 3 wrestlers if you're stuck with one. How about that?
Okay, so if that's the case, I'm gonna do one from now and then one from back in the day.
Perfect.
And I would have to say Beth Phoenix, just because I love her. I genuinely she mesmerizes me, and she's incredibly inspiring. So. And I feel like I have a similar, like I said, I don't like to have a specific style, but I feel very connected to her, and seeing her work in the ring, I can relate to it. The only difference is she's really tall and I'm not. So I would say Beth Phoenix from, a previous era. And right now I would say I would have to go with Charlotte Flair. I love her.
That's a pretty strong stable though. So.
She is, I mean, I'm sure she's a fan favorite, and as she should be, but just knowing that, hearing her story about how she got into the industry is just really inspiring to me, and just seeing where she went when she first started until now. And I know everybody probably thinks, oh well, she's Ric Flair's daughter, she has it easy, but hearing, I don't know if you've ever watched anything about how she got into wrestling, but hearing that, it wasn't originally her dream, it was her brother's dream, and then she decided to, after he passed away, to carry it on for him. And then all the stuff she went through, feeling like she had to live up to, Ric Flair's legacy, and not being sure she could, and being completely felt like she didn't even belong in the ring when she first started, to who she is now.
Yeah.
I just would want to be in a team with her just for that. So and not even putting aside the fact that she's literally one of the best female wrestlers that has ever been.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. That's a pretty solid answer. And what a stable. God, you guys would dominate if that was a stable for sure.
Exactly.
So you can catch Harlow O'Hara right here in first of all in Belfast, where she'll be competing against Lauren LaRue at Pro Wrestling Ulster's Culture Night 2017. And then Sunday 24th, she'll be teaming up with Debbie Cattell to take on the Session Martina and Amy Alonzi at Over the Top Wrestling Contenders 3. Tickets are still available for that at eventbrite.ie. So, Harlow, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I imagine you're very busy at the moment, going from Ireland at the moment, but really, it was a pleasure to talk to you. A very inspiring story coming from you. And we hope to hear from you again soon. So, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So, all right, thank you.